Hi everyone, my name is Mackenzie, and I'm here to break the misconception of how it is like to be a product designer. I'm doing this video because recently I've been getting a lot of messages with regard to the Google Design Challenge, and by talking to people, I realized that I was giving the same advice and tips. So then I thought that doing a video about it would actually be really valuable for you all. So here's the video. I would say that something that made me sad was that a lot of people messaged me telling me that they didn't do as well as they wish they did. So I would say that these tips are also to help you be better designers so that you can tackle more challenges. And then when you get design problems, you're able to break them down properly. So tip number one is to really understand the prompt that you're being given. So what I mean by that is to understand the context and the situation in which you're going to be designing for. Something that I see a lot when I look at challenges is people they get a prompt and then they start solving right away for the prompt and they don't ask themselves any questions. So they'll be given a prompt and they'll just go to research. Like they're gonna do interviews and or surveys or both. And what happens after that is that they get like unstructured data. They just get data and then they try to get insights out of that data, mixing that with their unvalidated assumptions. And then at the end, they just feel like they haven't done the work properly. So then assuming that your prompt is design an experience for students to borrow books at the school library. So a way to go about it to frame your work is to ask yourself, for example, first question, for who am I designing for? So for me, for example, since I'm a student at the University of Waterloo, I'll be like, okay, so I'm designing for a student at U Waterloo. Then I would ask myself, okay, so like right now you want me to design an experience to help people borrow books at a library, but what problem does that even solve? Like, why should I even do this? Is there even a problem with the way people get books right now? And you know what? There might not even be a problem with the way people borrow books at the library. So then, in that case, you would try to identify areas of opportunities in which the library can improve their borrowing process. Something that a lot of people often neglect is the impact factor with regard to their work. So it's like, why does that problem even matter? Why is it a big deal for the user? And how can you move the needle in the user's life? Once you have all of that in mind, it's so much easier to think about what you know, what you don't know, and what you think you know. So your assumptions. And then once you have all of that in mind, you can start by thinking about research methods to be able to understand your unknowns. You can start thinking about design tool to synthesize your data. And then all of that will allow you to have a project running really smoothly. So tip number two, set goals to your work, set goals to your design. You guys need to define success. And I would say that's the biggest problem that I see with most of these challenges. People, they spend a lot of time working on these design, working on solving that problem, but they don't define success. It's as if, for example, like I give you, like you get an assignment at school and you never get a rubric and you never get a grade. So you technically just did an assignment and you don't know if you failed or passed. But it's the same thing when you're designing without putting any success metrics. So for this specific challenge, I would at least have one way in which you define success qualitatively. So for the prompt that I choose, so design an experience for students to borrow books at the school library. The way you define success could be people prefer to use the new flow than the old flow. People are happier. So that's the way I define success. That's really hypothetical, but that's the way you would define it, for example. And then if you want to go further, like you talk about how you're going to measure that. So it's like, oh, I'm going to measure happiness by using the Net Promoter Score, for example. So what I would do is I would give a survey before and after they get the experience and I would be able to see which one is the best. So this is how I'm defining and measuring success. So tip number three, just show the people reviewing the challenges that you understand the design process. So here I will talk about the double diamond. So that's the typical double diamond. So this is pretty self-explanatory. It's like at the beginning you start with the research. So then this is where you would do like your interviews, your Google search and all. And then you need to synthesize the data. So basically make sense of it. And this is where you will gather insights, you will identify opportunities. This is where you would use your design tools. for example, make a user journey or personas. And then after that, you will like conceptualize the product. So then like you would ideate, you would start making wireframes, you would start doing sketches, you would start getting like tangible ideas. And then at the end you like implement. So then this is where you start like working through like higher fidelity, and then that's where you start usability testing. And so for this challenge you should walk them through all of these different parts of the process. So tip number four, and that's something that my mentor at Google told me when I work on anything, either conceptual or a challenge or real work, is treat every project as if they were going to get shipped. When you think about it that way, that will help you put reasonable constraints to your work. And for example, you'll be able to think about, for example, revenue streams, or like how can I make it easier to code for engineers. And these are all things that will help you think deeper about your project. So I would say final tip, play your strength. Like if you have amazing visual skills, show that on your challenge. If you have amazing research skills, show that. Because at the end of the day, it's your strength and what you're good at that is going to make you stand out from the crowd. So yeah, just like if you're good at something, just show it. So that was it for me. I really hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions, feedback, comment, or you just want me to do more of these, feel free to post comments down below. And other than that, I wish you a great rest of the day. Peace.